Namaskaraha and welcome to our next session on yogic life. So today's topic that I want to talk is how to make human life blessed. Right? How can we make our human life grateful? Right? How can we make it thankful? Or what is the goal of life? Right? What should we do? Right? What is the praiseworthy work that we can do in this human life? So the answer to the question is we can make a life blessed by doing the work that is directed by Ishvara. Right? And what is the work that is directed by Ishvara? Is going towards Ishvara. This is what is the work for which we have taken birth. But do we realize that? We don't realize that we do everything but the Ishvara, the work directed by Ishvara. Right? So we have to understand that what is the expectation of Ishvara is that we have to do the work that is directed by him. The animals in this world, right, they are thinking about the worldly things. Right? The animals think about ahara, nidra, bhayam and maitunam. But what do the true human beings think is they do the sadhana of Paramatma. Animals do the sadhana of the worldly things, and human beings, the true human beings, do the sadhana of Paramatma. And this is the dharma of human beings, which we are seeing from our first class. Right? But who can go towards Paramatma? In order to go towards Paramatma, what are the two things that you need? One is you need the movement. Right? You actually make effort and you move towards Paramatma. That is the first thing. And the second thing that you need is you need to have a pure heart. Two things you need. If you have these two things, you can move towards Paramatma. One is there should actually be a movement. That means you need to take the effort to move. And second thing is you need to have a pure heart. So, if you look at a small baby, the heart of a small baby is extremely nirmal. It's pure. Right? Our heart, the human heart, should be pure like that. Right? By doing sadhana, the heart becomes pure. So, by doing sadhana, what happens? The mind, it doesn't go near things which are bad. Right? It doesn't do any wrong thing. It doesn't do wrong work or bad work. Right? So, how generally we say that my heart is not pure. Right? I need to make my heart pure. So, how do I make the heart pure? Is one is you need to do sadhana, and then the other one is niswartha jana seva. Right? So when you have the swartha bhavana, selfish tendency, then you cannot do seva. Right? So when you go to the shop, you give money and you buy something, that is not seva. That is business transaction. You're giving money and he's giving you something. So that is business transaction. So there is an exchange. Right? There's a mutual exchange, and that is a business transaction. You give something and you take something. Right? But when you give something and you don't take something, you don't have the desire to take something. That is what we call as the niswartha seva. So only a person who does sadhana can do the niswartha seva without expecting anything in return. Right? Businesses are always mutual. There is always an expectation. So if you give money, then you are expecting that he gives you some product. Right? The shopkeeper gives you product. That is what is a business transaction. A business transaction is always mutual, whereas jana seva is unilateral. So how can you make your heart pure? Is by doing jana seva. But by doing jana seva, what happens? You're not thinking about your individual self. You're only thinking about the other person, right, to whom you're helping. You're thinking about the welfare of the other person. You're doing it by constantly thinking about the welfare of others. Your heart becomes pure. When your heart becomes pure, then it becomes easier to go towards Paramatma. Right? So therefore we should do niswartha jana seva. When we do the Niswartha Jana Seva, then human life becomes blessed, right? So this life is given by Paramatma, and how does the life become blessed or grateful is by doing sadhana and by doing Jana Seva. By that, what happens? You become closer to that Paramatma. So this kind of capability is not there in animals. Right? No matter how much the animals desire, they don't have the samarthya. Right? So because they don't have the capability, that's why they don't have the desire also. Only human beings have the desire to move towards the infinite. And that is why Paramatma has given you this capability. Right? Because we have this desire, he has given us the capability. If we didn't have the desire, then there was no need for the capability. If we had only the capability and no desire, then we may not use it. But we have the desire, and that is why Paramatma has given that capability where we can go towards Paramatma, where we can make our heart and mind pure, right, by doing the Jana Seva. So in addition to doing Jana Seva, you also need to make the chesta of going towards him. How do you go towards him? By doing sadhana. So when a small child starts walking, it just goes 2 steps and it falls down and it starts crying. So then the father comes running and grabs the child and comforts the child. He says, okay, nothing has happened. And then again he puts the child on the ground and say, okay, try again, go forward. Right? Like that, once you make the effort, because it is not easy, just like the child when it tries to walk, it's not easy in the beginning, right? It falls. The same way doing sadhana is not easy in the beginning. People are not able to focus, but when you can constantly try by abhyasa, then it becomes very, very natural. It becomes swabhavik, right? So when you understand that you have to move towards Paramapurusha, right, and when you have the desire that I want to move towards Paramapurusha, then automatically Paramatma will come to your guidance, right? Just like a father comes with the guidance of the child to show the child, to support the child and help the child to move forward. Like that, when you have the desire and when you realize that you have the desire to move towards the infinite, then that Paramatma will come. He will grab your hands and he'll help you go forward. So then the human beings go forward and Paramatma shows you the way how to go forward. He shows you the way, he'll help you, he holds your hand and takes you forward. Brahmaiva Guru Rekaha Naparaha. So Brahma is the only Guru. Nobody else can be your Guru. So Paramatma in the form of a Guru, he manifests himself in the form of a Guru, and through that Guru he teaches you sadhana, right? So this is the duty of Paramatma. When the child has a desire to come towards it, then Paramatma will show you the way, right? So sometimes what happens, like human beings, even so Paramatma thinks that this person will be ready to learn sadhana after some time, but sometimes the human beings, if they have the desire sooner to come towards Paramatma, then Paramatma is more than happy to teach you. He is actually in fact very happy that you're asking for the sadhana lesson even before he thinks you are ready, right? You have awakened yourself and you have made an effort to go faster. So when you have that desire, so when you have that kind of a prarthana to Paramapurusha, that show me the path, show me the path to come towards you, then Paramatma, it is his duty, right? He looks at the sincerity that you have and the desire that you have to come towards him, then Paramatma surrenders to that kind of a sadhaka, right? If the desire is correct, if the desire is that, oh, hey Paramatma, show me the path to come towards you, then Paramatma completely surrenders to you, right? Just like the father surrenders to the child and helps the child, Paramatma surrenders to you. So there is an importance of prarthana in human life, right? What kind of prarthana can we do to Paramapurusha. So people do all kinds of so-called prarthana saying, oh, give me money, give me this, give me that, and all that. But that is not prarthana. But what is the true prarthana that we can actually do to Paramapurusha is to say, hey Paramapurusha, give me that parabhakti, right? I don't want anything else from you. Give me that parabhakti. We are not going to ask for any material thing, right? We're not going to ask for, house, car, or whatever, right? All those things are meaningless, right? So these worldly things, the world is filled with these worldly things, right? So in the world there are a lot of material things, and we do need some things in the world to survive. So how we should live in the society is we should all live collectively, right? Whatever material things that are there, we should distribute them equally so that everybody has them, that the basic things, the food, clothing, shelter, medication, all of that is easily available, and then there's a rational distribution, so everybody has the food, clothing, medication, education, and all of that, right? Food, clothing, shelter, medication, education. Then at the societal level, if we have everything, then it becomes easier to go towards Paramapurusha. So if you have everything in the society, there is a rational distribution of the wealth in the society, then there is no need for you to ask to Paramatma, hey Paramatma, give me this, give me that. So then only thing that you need to ask Paramatma is, hey Paramatma, give me that parabhakti, right? So so then if everybody has the food, clothing, shelter, and all of that, then there is no need to ask anything from Paramatma. The only thing that you can ask Paramatma is, hey Paramatma, that is the only prarthana. Hey Paramatma, give me that parabhakti, right? That is the only thing that we should ask, nothing else. Please awaken this bhakti in my heart towards you, right? This is the only prarthana. So that bhakti needs to be awakened. Everybody has this bhakti, and that bhakti, for some people it is in more awakened state, for some people it is in the sushupta avastha, it is in the sleeping mode, right? We have to awaken that bhakti, right? So I've heard people say that we keep talking about Brahma, but I'm not able to connect. The reason they're not able to connect is that because that bhakti bhava is not awakened in their heart. So we need to awaken that bhakti bhava. So how do we awaken that bhakti bhava? We need to ask Paramapurusha. We need to do the prarthana and say, hey Paramapurusha, please fulfill my prarthana. What is my prarthana? Right? Please give me parabhakti. Right? So when you ask Paramapurusha for parabhakti, then he realizes that you're actually ready. You're ready to move forward. Then what he does is he shows you the path. He gives you the sadhana marga. He gives you the diksha. Nobody should mistake to think that they come to this path by coincidence. It is not coincidence. It's all a design, right? It is a design. So there must be some karanam why you have come to learn about the yogic life. Right? All of this happens through Paramapurusha's grace. Right? With his grace, you get the opportunity of learning sadhana. When you have learned sadhana, and if you're not doing sadhana, that is not right. It is not right. So because Brahma himself in the form of a guru appeared in front of you and gave you that diksha, and if you're not doing sadhana, that is not correct. You're wasting your life. And sadhana is such a powerful tool, powerful technique to get closer to Paramapurusha and attain him, right? So if you've gotten diksha, then you have to do, right? So until you get the sadhana marga, right? Till then you will ask Paramatma, hey, show me the path. Hey, give me the parabhakti. Show me the path. Right? That is the prarthana. That is one prarthana you do. Hey, give me the parabhakti. Show me the path. Right? So, but once Paramatma gives you the sadhana, right? Then there is no need to ask Paramatma to give you the path. He's already given you the path. He's shown you the marga. He has given you the path, and he's given you the sadhana. So then once you've gotten sadhana, then you have to do the sadhana. After getting sadhana, if you're not doing sadhana, then that is absolutely wrong, right? Because Paramapurusha himself has manifested in the form of a guru and given you that sadhana, and after learning that, and you're not using it, you're not doing, you're not trying, you're not sitting and doing sadhana, in sitting in padmas and closing your eyes and doing sadhana, then that is absolutely wrong. You're actually wasting your life, right? So we have to do sadhana. So if you have to go from Jaipur to Delhi, right? So then you'll ask somebody, right? How do I go from Jaipur to Delhi? So people may tell you, oh, this is the path. You can go by train, you can go by airplane. This is the path, right? So, but when once you got in the path, then you're not going to ask again. Then you're not going to ask anybody, how do I go to Delhi from Jaipur? You're not going to ask because you know the path. So same way, when you have the desire to attain the infinite, you're asking Paramatma to show you the path, and once he's given you that diksha, sadhana diksha, then you have to start moving towards him. You have to do the sadhana, right? There's this Gayatri mantra, Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tatsavitun Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. This is a Vaidika Prarthana. In this Prarthana, what you are asking is Paramatma, hey Paramatma, show me the path. That is what you are asking. Hey, show me the path. And when you do the Prarthana, and when Paramatma gives you the sadhana, he gives you the diksha of sadhana, then you're not going to ask, show me the path again, right? So we have the lokas, the sapta lokas, bhuhu, bhuvaha, swaha, mahaha, janaha, tapaha, satya, right? This sapta loka, the 7 worlds, the Lord, the Swami of the 7 worlds, that is Paramatma. I want to do dhyanam of yours. I want to do the dhyanam of yours, because you are the only thing that is pujaniya. You are the only thing that is worthy of worship, right? We're not going to worship idols. We're not going to worship anything else. We're going to worship that Paramatma, that Jyoti, which is the only thing which is pujaniya, which is we will do the dhyana of that Paramatma, right? So you make my buddhi proper, right? Help me go in the right path. Hey Paramatma, show me the right buddhi, give me the right buddhi so that I go on the right path, right? So he gives you that strength and that intellect so that you go on the right path, right? That is why Paramapurusha is the only one who has the capability to do this. That is why only Paramapurusha is pujaniya, and he is the Jyoti Swarupa. He is the light that gives us light, and we should do dhyana of such an entity. We meditate on the divine effulgence of the Supreme Father, of the Paramapurusha. Why do we meditate? Is so that he may guide our intellect onto the path of the supreme beatitude, right? He shows us into the path of that infinite bliss. That is why we meditate on his Jyoti, on his divine Jyoti, right? So till you haven't gotten the path, you ask for the path. Then when you got the path, then you don't ask the path, you do the sadhana. So the a person who is not a sadhaka, what is the prarthana he does is he says, hey Paramapurusha, I'm in darkness. What kind of darkness? Is atmic darkness, right? Atmic darkness. So your laukik chakshu is fine, your worldly eyes, the eyes with which you look outside, look at a book or a pen or whatever, those eyes are fine, right? Those eyes are for looking at the worldly things. But your antaschakshu, the inner eyes, the adhyatmic eyes, right? So that is not opened, right? From that perspective, I'm blind, right? So that is why you say tamasoma jyotirgamaya, asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityormar amritam gamaya, aviravir mayidhi, right? So take me out of this darkness and take me towards the sadgati, the proper path, right? So take me from the asat to the sat, take me from the worldly things which keeps changing, which are transient, to something which is sadvastu, which is intransient, which doesn't undergo any transformation, which is aparinami, right? Which is not having any parivartan. Take me to such an entity. So that is the Vaidika Prarthana. When you haven't received the Diksha, then you do the Prarthana that Hey, show me the path. Right? So once you got on the path, then you go in the path. Take me from mortality to immortality. Take me from Asat to Sat. Right? The Sat Vastu, the only thing that doesn't undergo any transformation in this world is that Parama Purusha. Right? So when you're doing the Prarthana, you haven't gotten the sadhana. Still you haven't gotten the sadhana, you have not gotten the marga. Then you pray to Parama Purusha to show you the path. Right? So once you've gotten the path, then what you need to do is you need to do sadhana. You need to do sincerely do sadhana. If you do sadhana, then success is guaranteed. There's no question about it. Right? So initially the problem is why people don't get success is because initially they are not sincere. Right? They're not sincere. They don't have determination in their heart that I should do this regularly. Because you don't have the determination in your heart, so then what happens is that you do today, you don't do tomorrow, then you do one day and then you don't do, and then you don't do it at all. So that is what happens. Most people, they learn it, they do for 2-3 days, and then they say, okay, today I'm not going to do. Right? But see, when it comes to sadhana, right, let's say we don't have time. Right? People, this is a standard excuse, is I don't have time. I'm very busy. Right? What is the purpose for which we have got in human life? Is to attain that supreme entity. So you are busy with all the other worldly things, so that you don't have time for Parama Purusha. Right? That is ridiculous. Right? So if you don't have time in a day, like let's say that you have something very, very pressing going on at work, you don't have time. So even when you don't have time, you should do sadhana at least for 5 minutes. 5 minutes you should do sadhana. Every day you should do. So sometimes you say, I don't have time to do sadhana. Right? If you don't have time to do sadhana, at least do for 5 minutes. You do for 10 minutes. Right? So this is the order in which you have to do things. Right? First, if you don't have time, you have to do sadhana. Right? Then after doing sadhana, if you have little bit of time, then you can take a shower. Right? Then after taking a shower, if you have little bit of time, you can sleep, because you're very tired, you worked a lot, you can sleep a little, and then you can eat. Right? So the order of things that we should do in life is first sadhana, then take a shower, then do sleep, and then finally eating. But what do we do? We first eat. We don't have time and we haven't done anything else. First we eat, and then we just sleep. Right? And shower also, we just push the shower also and forget about sadhana. There is a reverse order we go. But what is being said over here is that you have to first do sadhana. Whatever you have done or not, every day, without fail, twice a day, you have to do sadhana. Even if it is for 5 minutes, sit down for 5 minutes. You don't have time, sit down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and do sadhana. Then that is how you build the practice. So then what happens when you build the practice? Then if you don't do sadhana, it's like, oh, I haven't done something. It's like it just pricks you. It just pricks you, and you automatically go and do. So you need to get into that abhyasa. You need to get into the abhyasa of meditation. Then what happens? Slowly the quality of your meditation also improves. Right? Quality of your meditation improves. So that is what I wanted to actually cover today. Now let us actually go to our Karapatram. Today we are actually reading a new Karapatram. Yama and Niyama. We studied about the Yama, right? Satya, Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha. That is the Yama. Today we are going to learn about the Niyama. Right? So why don't you start? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Bhagini.
You can see my screen?
No, Bhagini.
See my screen? You can't see my
Before
screen?
it was visible, now no.
Okay. So I got disconnected.
Yeah.
How about now?
No.
Now it was visible.
Now it's coming.
Okay.
How to live in the society. Should I start, Bhagini?
Yes, please.
The establishment of an ideal society depends on the mutual help of the members and their cooperative behavior. The cooperative behavior depends on the practice of the principles of huma and niyama. So spiritual practice, especially the practice of yama and niyama, are the sound foundation of an ideal society. For an ideal society, we have to help all the members and have a cooperative behavior. And this cooperative behavior comes from the principle of yama and niyama. So that's why these practices, yama and niyama, spiritual practices, are like very important for an ideal society.
Yeah, this paragraph is Hana. One second. This paragraph is actually important, right? So we can establish an ideal society when all the members of the society work together in a cooperative manner. So we are talking about how to live in the society. How to live in the society. So when we talk about morality, it has implications not only for the individuals but for the collective also. This is very, very important, right? We have talked about this before, that human life is a collective flow. It is not just an individual where somebody is only thinking about the individual. That is just selfishness, right? We have talked about this, that the ants live in the society, right? They live in a collective manner, whereas the spiders, they are designed to live alone, right? For spiders it's fine, they live alone, but for a human being it's not fine. We are like ants, right? We are not designed to live alone. We cannot live alone. We have to live in a society. We are designed to live collectively. So in order to live collectively, there has to be certain rules and guidelines, right, which forms the foundation for that. Right now there are laws independent of morality. So there are certain things that which we consider to be immoral, right? For example, eating meat, right? There is no country in the world today that has a law which is against eating meat, right? So those laws are against the standards of morality, right? So the laws of the society should be created in such a manner they are aligned with the morality, the moral values, right? So there is no country in the world which would say that they cannot tolerate eating meat, right? They don't think there is anything wrong with it. They eat it all the time. They eat it every day, right? So there is no Congress in the world which could pass a law against eating meat, right? It may be possible in the future, but not today. Like so in America, in the past, right, people who had a black color skin, that is those people who came from Africa, they had the law that they could keep them as slaves. But today that is an outrageous idea, right? So in those days it wasn't illegal. In those days it was not illegal. They were allowed to do that, right? They made the constitution and they gave them themselves the permission to do that. So people had slaves in their house, right? So but today it is not legal. Today you cannot keep them as slaves, right? So we can see there is a big gap between the spiritual morality, the yama and niyama, and the laws of a country, right? So here, how to live in a society and how to establish an ideal society. Ideal society means where people live in harmony, right? Like they live together in harmony, right? Where they, as it's saying, where they help each other, they helping each other, and they have a cooperative behavior, right? So there has to be some standards. So the spiritual morality goes far beyond the external standards, right? So the yama are more the external regulations, right? So we have talked about the satya, right? It is the yama is more is beyond the external, it is more to do with the functioning of the mind. Like, it's not merely an external rule, right? So it is uh, in the sense that it relates, the yama relates with the inner function of the mind, right? So yama is guided in that direction. The satya, ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, they're all directly related to the mind's interaction with the external world, right? So now we are going to talk about the guidelines of niyama, right? So we are going to talk about the principles of niyama, right? How to uh, so here is the thing, the yama is how your mind interacts with the external world, right? Whereas niyama is it has to do with the inner functions of the mind, right, independent of what is going on in the outside world, right? So when we look at the satya, asteya, brahmacharya, parigraha, so you're interacting with the external world and how your mind functions with regard to the external world, that is yama, right? Niyama is all internal, everything is internal, it is maintaining a state of mental contentment, right? So it is the guidelines for your inner world, independent of what is going on outside, right? So both yama and niyama are very important to create an ideal society, right? So the yogic life is not only for the individual life, it is also to create an ideal collective society, right? You have to raise the consciousness of the individuals. Raising the consciousness is actually needed so that we can create a harmonious society. So that is a critical aspect of the spiritual morality, right? Which is the yama and niyama, which is the foundation of ideal society. So we'll talk about this. Take the next paragraph, Bhagini.
It is often noticed that individuals incur death because of their violating the principles of Yama and Niyama, especially due to their extravagance, and as a result they approach society for relief. In this connection, I must point out that just as a society is duty bound to give relief to individuals by combined effort, so also it must have control over the conduct of individuals, over their practice of the principles of Yama and Niyama, and also over their expenditure. Not to consult anybody at the time of spending money, but to ask for help from all when in debt is not a good practice. Such a mentality cannot be encouraged. Like when we don't follow Yama and Niyama, then we have some debt, and because of like this extravagance, not following Yama and Niyama, so we approach.
What is extravagance? What is extravagance? It's like not having a controlled behavior. You're just spending left, right, and center on different things, right? Living beyond your means, like being extravagant.
Extravagance. So we run to the society for getting some relief because we have done some extravagance. We haven't followed Yama and Niyama, so we approach for relief. In this connection, the author is pointing that society is duty bound to give relief to individuals by combined efforts. Like he's saying that society will give you relief because it's duty, right, to giving relief. So like it's duty, then it's also some control also comes under society. The society can control over the conduct of individuals, over their practices of spiritual practices, and also over their expenditure. Both tasks to give relief and also to control their practices. If we are not we are spending money alone and then asking money when we are in debt, this is not good practice. It's like a two-way practice. If we want relief, then we have to follow the rules of society also, and society also, like if it's giving relief, then it also have some control over individual practices like Yama and Niyama. Uh, that's all. Like it's like both for individual and society that we have a two-way practice to follow Yama and Niyama, and also society's roles also. And society also should have some control over individuals' Yama and Niyama practices, and also can give relief uh, after controlling the conduct of individuals.
Nicely said, Bhagini. So yeah, right. There is an interaction between the collective and the individual, which is being referred to in this paragraph. That is, the society also has a duty, right? So when you have a seed, just like having a seed, and you have to have proper soil, proper temperature, and proper water, and then only the seed will grow. So the society has a duty to all the individuals. Otherwise, what is the point of the society? Right? Just like you have a family, the family, they exist to take care of each other, to help each other. You have a mother, a father, three children. They all to live together. All the five of them live together in a house. They are going to help each other, take care of each other. Otherwise, what is the point of family? Right? So we have a global family, a universal family. The entire universe is a family, right? Here particularly referring to the human beings in the human society that we are trying to create from this yogic perspective, a society which does its duty of taking care of all the members, right? So in doing so, the society then has a right to have certain expectations of the members, right? So if you have people who care for themselves and still try to take the benefits, right, from the society, then that is not good, right? If they're taking advantage of the generosity of the society and they're misusing, right? So then the society has a responsibility of guiding those members, right? Guiding those members and telling them that what they're doing is not correct, right? So that there are certain rules in the society that we have to follow, right? So see, then another example is the ahimsa. So it is a natural outcome of ahimsa that people should not unnecessarily kill animals for food, right? When they can not only be healthy, they can be actually more healthy by eating plants rather than animals. In other words, eating the lowest on the food chain, right? That is what is best for the human beings, and we all know that, right? So if people are not following that, then they are not following the principles of yama niyama. They're going against ahimsa, right? So when people are eating meat, they're living by their taste buds rather than for the health of themselves as well as the animals whom they are killing, right? Even if they don't do it with their own hands, but they're purchasing those things from the store, then they are harming those innocent animals who do not do anything to hurt those people who purchase their flesh, right? So when people eat that meat and they become overweight, they get heart attacks, diabetes, etc., stroke, right? Then they need more, a better healthcare system, right? So healthcare is very expensive. Whether it's India or India, it may not be that expensive, but it's extremely expensive in America. The people have to purchase health insurance, otherwise it is impossible to afford healthcare. The system is way too expensive, right? But you need health insurance, and one of the reasons the system is expensive is because people don't live healthy life. So they inevitably end up needing all kinds of medical care, which should not have been needed if they had led a healthy life, right? So many things should happen to people which should not have been happening. So the point over here is that the society is duty bound to give relief to the individuals by combined efforts, and also must have control over the conduct of individuals, over their practice of the principles of Yama and Niyama, and also over their expenditure. If people are living a very unhealthy life, like smoking cigarettes, eating meat, eggs, taking dairy products, and getting overweight, right, and getting heart attack, stroke, then the society has to pay for all the medical care, right? So those who want to live that kind of life, they should have to pay more for the medical care system, right? Those who never have to go to the doctor because they never got sick, because they're living a yogic life, right? Why should they pay much for the medical care system, right? They shouldn't have to pay as much, right? Then it will incentivize people, those people who are not following the yogic life, also to follow healthy life, right? Because right now people are thinking that they can do whatever and they'll get medical care, right? So they're getting all kinds of treatments, but it shouldn't be like that. People should have the motivation to follow the right lifestyle. People who are following the right lifestyle, they shouldn't have to pay much for the medical insurance. People who are not following the proper lifestyle and getting all sorts of diseases, they should have to pay more, right? Right now people who are not getting any diseases, we are actually funding for those people who are having diseases all the time, right? Those people are having diseases all the time because of that their medical insurance goes up, and we have to pay. People who are following the yogic lifestyle have to pay more, right? So that is not correct. So the rules of the society have to be changed with regard to that, right? So why should a person who is not eating meat, who is not going to get sick, have to pay the same amount for the medical care when the person who is going to get sick because it was in their hand, right? And even though it was in their hand, they did all sorts of wrong things. They smoked cigarettes, ate meat, did all of those things, and because of that they got sick. Then if they want to eat all those things during their life, then the insurance for those such people should be much higher. The society must have a control over the conduct of the individuals. It should incentivize the individuals to live healthy, right? So then what happens? People all will become responsible. People will be responsible, right? So we have an obligation as a society to each other, to each and every individual, regardless of what they eat, regardless of their lifestyle. But at the same time, if somebody willingly eats the wrong food and smokes cigarettes and drinks alcohol and does all of that, and then it is inevitable that person will get sick, right? So then those people who all get sick, they should be incentivized not to do that, right? So there should be a balance in their how to manage that, right? So society has an obligation over here. Society has an obligation over here. The same thing with the money, right? If somebody doesn't consult the society and they spend a lot of money, right, taking debt and doing all that, taking debt is not a good practice, taking loan is not a good practice, right? So they take debt, and in India you can see that people take a huge amount of debt to do the marriage of their daughters, right? So what is the need to borrow so much and do the marriage in such a grand manner, right? So there should be rules in the society to regulate that, right? So somebody is going to take a huge debt and lead an extravagant life, right? Then the society should not be able to bear the brunt of that. Society must be able to guide those individuals to regulate their practice, follow the Yama Niyama, and have control over their expenditure, right? So now you're not consulting anybody when the time of spending money, and when you have a huge debt and you're not able to afford it and you're struggling, then you can't put the burden on the society and ask help from the society, right? So the society should have such a rules where people are able to follow the Yama and Niyama. Okay, let me take the next one. Bhagini, take the next one.
Yes. To purchase by incurring debt, such a treat will do, or gabardine where such will do, is surely against the principle of aparigraha. Similarly, people should take food which is nutritious but not rich. They have to give up the practice of feeding others with money taken on loan. That is why social control over the individual's conduct and expenditure is indispensably necessary. Hence, all sadhaka, when they see other sadhaka acting against the principle of Yama Niyama, must try to help them understand the folly of their actions. Indeed, sadhakas should be aware of the conduct of other sadhakas so as to be able to aid and guide them in practice of the principles of Yama and Niyama, and should also accept calmly the direction of other sadhakas in this connection. And in this way, all will have to make the society strong. Beginning this line, search where tweed will do, or gabardine where search will do.
It means that where with little we could survive, but we are doing, like for instance, you could do the marriage. Let's say you could do the marriage with just 1,000 rupees, but instead of spending 1,000 rupees, if you spend 1 lakh rupees for doing the marriage, right? That is you're being extravagant, right? Surge where tweed will do, or gabardine where surge will do, means essentially it is against the principle of aparigraha. We should not lead an extravagant life, right? We shouldn't be spending unnecessarily on things which are not needed. Only the things which are needed for our existence, that is what we need to spend. We cannot be extravagant. That is what it's trying to say. Being extravagant is not correct.
So that is against aparigraha. We should take the food which is nutritious but not rich. Okay, what does this mean? Nutritious but not rich.
Nutritious. Nutritious food means we should take food that is having all the nutrients that are required for the body. They should have the proper vitamins and protein and everything we should take. All of that we should take. So to take a whole food plant-based diet, that diet is nutritious, right? That doesn't mean that you have to take a very rich diet. You don't have to spend a lot of money trying to eat a lot of nuts and eating something which is very very rich,
Like
right?
broccoli and all.
Yeah. So so the imported goods which come from some other country, right?
Yes,
Which are very very costly. So there is no need to eat all of that. We just need to eat what is locally produced and which is nutritious, so directly coming from the farm to your house.
they have to give up the practice of feeding others with the money taken on loan. But isn't this good, like feeding others with money taken on loan? Maybe they shouldn't.
No, no, no. How is it
They
good?
have to give up. Like if someone is hungry and we feed them.
No, that is different. That is not what it's talking. To feed somebody who is hungry, you're not taking a loan, right?
Yeah.
If somebody is hungry
Like
on the road and you give them food, that is fine. For that, you're not taking a loan. But here, see, like for instance, in the wedding, right,
yeah, yeah.
they take huge loan and they invite people for, having lunch and all that. They invite thousands and thousands of people. What is the need to take a loan and invite so many people for food?
I also don't understand that point. And they're also not hungry. Instead, we can like serve some hungry persons.
Yeah, we can serve hungry persons. Here we're talking about, uh, not taking a loan and
Yeah.
feeding somebody. So it's not necessarily just the feeding point, but in any aspect of life, spending on things which are unnecessary, right? For instance, if a second hand car is good enough for you to go from point A to B, then what is the need? A second hand car will come in 10,000 rupees, let's say. What is the need to borrow 10 lakh rupees and buy a luxurious car? There is no need. The purpose for which you want a car is so that you reach point A to point B, right?
Yeah.
And that can be well accomplished by a second hand car. So then what is the need to buy a first hand car which is so expensive, right? So that is what is aparigraha.
So, like that time, society can also enter and control that individual's conduct and expenditure. That it's not necessary. Uh, so in case like one sadhaka is doing against Yama and Niyama, the other sadhaka can also try to help them by understanding their folly. Instead, sadhaka should be aware of.
Bagini, did you read the whole paragraph once, or you're reading every
Yeah,
line and
yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
I have read.
okay.
Uh, we should aware of each other, like conduct, so that we can add or guide them in case they are making some folly, and calmly that person also accept the direction of other sadhakas. So this way we will together will make a society strong. Like if someone is doing wrong, then others should guide him. So he should also take some directions from the others, and uh, this is how we will make a society strong, by helping each other, and also not doing the things that are against their mind niyama. And if someone is doing, then the others should make him aware of uh, his or her behaviors. Okay, Bhagini? Bhagini, you are on mute.
Oh, I am so sorry. Okay, I was explaining. Sorry about that. So what I was actually explaining is this: you are asking about the search where tweed will do or gabardine where search will do. That is an idiom. It's a classic idiom. It means that it means practicality and appropriate spending, right? Don't buy something expensive when a cheaper functional alternative will do the job perfectly fine, right? So in any situation you have to evaluate whether, you know, look at the alternatives and evaluate, this is an expensive alternative, and is there something else which is cheaper and which is functional, right? When a cheaper and functional alternative will do the job, then we actually use that, right? That is what this is, right? So essentially it means living within your means and avoiding unnecessary luxury, right? So you need to match your expenses exactly to your actual needs, right? Scaling down your choices to the most practical option available rather than just overspending just for the sake of status. So number one is that people don't like taking advice of others or hearing others recommend that they change their approach. Like people say that, it's my life, I lead how I want. Like, why are you advising me? Right? People don't like to hear any advice, especially the seniors, right? Especially those who are in higher posts in the society, right? So what is being said over here is that it is the behavior that matters and not the post. In yogic life, it is the action, the behavior which determines one's respect in the society and not the post, right? As we know all around the world, the hierarchies of respect, right? So that is what governs the behavior, right? So like a Pradhan Mantri gets huge respect, right? Even if he's taking bribes behind the curtain, and even then he is getting huge respect, then that is useless respect, right? He's not doing anything great, and why should he get respect? He should actually not be getting any respect from the society, right? If somebody finds out that he's doing all these things, he should not get any respect. Rather, it should be pointed out that he is doing all these things, right? So we have no care for the post. Everything is concerned about the behavior. Somebody whose behavior is good, they should be respected on that point, and it has nothing to do with the post. It goes in both directions, that if a sadhaka sees another person is not following yama and niyama, it should be pointed out. And this is not easy for people to do, right? They just rather keep their mouth shut and not say anything. That's easier, right? But what is being said over here is that you have a right to do so, and not only a right but also an obligation to do so, right? So, and also especially the common people, right? There are general guidelines that if you're not following something, if a person is not following, if there are guidelines, and if you're trying to regulate the society, if you yourself are not following it, then how can you regulate the society, right? So you need to first implement it as a sadhaka. You have to implement everything, and then only we can point out to others, right? If you yourself are extravagant, then who has given you the authority to go and tell somebody else they should not be extravagant, right? If you yourself are not doing sadhana, then how can you go and tell somebody else you should do your sadhana, right? So what right you have to go and tell somebody else do your sadhana, right? So when somebody is sitting in a high post, they have a duty to be behaving in a way which conforms to the obligations of the post, right? Somebody who is much lower down, right? Let's say there's a person who's a conductor, and if he takes bribes occasionally, right? So he is taking bribe, and then the head of the transportation department where this bus is being run, that head of the department is also taking bribes, and that the head of the department Does he have right to punish the conductor for taking bribes? He, the head of the department, itself is taking the bribe. Right? The person who has the post needs to be exemplary. Right? Only then he can guide the society. Right? This applies to the whole society. Hence, all sadhakas, when we see other sadhakas are acting against the principle of Yama and Niyama, we must help them out and point out their folly so that they can correct themselves. Right? So we all live in the society, and when things are not done properly, when it harms everybody, then we need to point it out. Right? Those in the higher post have a duty to live in a way which can function as a guide for everybody. Right? Their conduct has ramifications because of their post. Right? So if it's found out that they're not following, then they have even more duty to be very strict in their following of Yama and Niyama. Right? This applies to everybody in the household, within the house, everybody in the society. Everyone in the society should help each other. Right? So if somebody is not following Yama and Niyama, whether we point it out and help them or not, we need to first make sure we are implementing everything. If we are not implementing everything, then how can we point out? Right? So as sadhakas, we must be very strict to the principle in the practice of the Yama and Niyama, and also be able to guide other sadhakas in this connection, and also the whole society. Then what happens? The whole society becomes very, very strong. Okay, just let's take one more paragraph again. Bhagini? Subrajyoti Bhagini.
Yes, Bhagini. Could I read the last one also?
Yes, please.
I am also giving one more advice in regard to a parigraha. If any sadhaka have to spend on anything in addition to their normally frugal expenditure, for example, expensive clothing, ornament, articles of furniture, marriage and building, etc., they should, before incurring such expenditure, obtain the counsel of the sadhaka. Similarly, counsel of sadhaka should be obtained before taking loan from any businessman or money lender. So, like in case we individually not like able to decide that we should do all these expenditure or not, then in that case we should discuss with other sadhkas counsel, and before taking loan also we should counsel with them so that they can give some like what right approach to handle the problem. So this is like important to follow a parigraha. Right, Bhagini?
Yeah. Yeah. So, uh, as sadhakas, we have to follow the aparigraha. Right? It's important that we follow the aparigraha. Right? So, and so in addition to the frugal expenses, they should consult other sadhakas before they incur expenditures on some major event, like marriage or function or some building or furniture or all of that. Right? So when everybody in the society does that, then what happens? The whole society change, the values begin to change, because people generally put material goods at high premium in their lives. Right? They give a lot of importance to material goods. They think that these things are very extremely important to have. Right? In the US, everybody has a new expensive car. The car is shining on the outside. Right? So when they come and get down on that car, it's like as if they have prestige. Right? So, and these things cost a lot. Right? And not everybody has that kind of money. Right? So then what they do is they take loans. They take loans to buy these cars. Right? That means a large portion of their salary every month goes into paying for these cars. paying for these loans, right? The loans that they took to purchase their vehicle, which was not needed in the first place, right? Literally, they could have purchased, a second-hand car for, a much cheaper price, right? And it would have served their purpose. But people, go on uselessly purchasing these fancy vehicles, right? Incurring and loan, and the insurance on such vehicles is also outrageous. It's very high, expensive, right? So, but when you buy a used vehicle, then the insurance, uh, you know, the insurance is also much lower, right? Insurance is also much lower, right? So, if you add up all the cost of the insurance and the vehicle and the loan and interest and everything, it comes with a sizable amount, and a big part of the salary goes away, right? So, essentially, what this paragraph is saying is that we as sadhakas have to follow the principle of aparigraha, and also, before incurring any significant expenses, if you're not able to come to a conclusion one way or the other, then you should consult other sadhakas who are more stabilized in the principle of aparigraha, take their guidance before spending money, right? So that is what this paragraph is actually talking about. We'll actually conclude the session over here. Any questions, Bhagini? Okay, if not, we'll just conclude the session over here. Thank you. Very good, very good. Thank you. Dhanyawadaha.